So today it's about vertex form, but we're going to be setting the notes aside for just a minute to practice some little things where if you don't have these little things down, you'll be toast on the test. Everybody just start by multiplying this out. Personally, I would always start with that, but then there's more than one way you can go. You just have to multiply all four parts together. All right, I'm going to pause for a minute while you multiply this out. All right, let's see how you did. Truckee, after you did 2x times x and got 2x squared, what'd you multiply the 2x by next?
-4.
And what'd you get?
-8x.
Excellent. Then we go underneath it. Kai, what do you get with this part?
-x.
Yep. I'm going to say -1x. It's the same thing. And then the last one's Kai.
+4.
+4. And then these two go together. Noah, can you read us the final answer?
2x minus 9x equals 4. 2x squared minus 9x.
There you go. Good. Okay. Now that is a fundamental skill. That's going to come up a lot. Now let me just go back and say, what if there was a 3, dun dun dun, right there? Everybody please write a 3 in front of it. And you don't have to erase everything. Because you would just have to times the 3 by this. And you would just have to times the 3 by that. And so you can do the 3 at the end. So everybody multiply this 3 in at the end and give me your final answer. So again, the number on the outside, if I were you, I'd wait till the end of the problem to multiply that in. Lydia, would you multiply the 3 in and tell me what you get?
I got 6x squared minus 27x
Plus 12. That's it. Good job. So notice, if there's a number in front, you wait till the end and multiply it in. So let's practice that one. 2 parentheses x plus 1, x minus 5. And a lot of times, even though I just did this, people will say, can I multiply the 2 in first? I don't recommend you do that. I think you should wait for the 2 for last. All right, multiply this out in the speediest way that you know how. Waiting for the 2 for last, and then get your final answer, and I'll call on a couple people to help me. So before I start, do you know what -1 is? And do you know what 5 is? Remember?
The X-Intercepts.
They're the X-Intercepts, yes. Everybody make a graph of this quick. Kai, what numbers did you put on your graph? These guys. And those are the X-Intercepts. So you should have put a -1 right there, and then 5 would be like over here. And this is a parabola. They're all parabolas. It looks like that. All right, now, what's that dotted line called? Truckee?
Axis of Symmetry.
Yes. And some kids call it the Axis of Symmetry because it's an x equals line. And it looks to me like it runs right through about 3. That's my theory. You know why? Because then it would be 2 spots over to get to 5. Uh-oh. No, it's not 3. It's definitely not 3. Because then it would have 4 spots over to get to -1 here. So it's not 3. What is it? 2. Very good. It's at 2. So that's x equals 2. That's how you find the axis of symmetry. And one last thing. This green dot. Kieran, what do we call that green dot there.
Y-intercept?
Yes. Everybody think to yourself how you would finish this sentence. The y-intercept is where x what?
Equals 0.
Equals 0. You just have to put a 0 here and a 0 here, and you could pretty quickly tell it would have to be 2 times 0 plus 1 is 1 times 0 minus 5 is negative 5. So it's 2 times 1 times negative 5, so y equals negative 10. That would be negative 10. I know it doesn't look like it scale-wise, but that would have to be negative 10. Because the y-intercept is where what? Say it if you know it. The y-intercept is where x equals 0. How about this? Finish this sentence. The x-intercept would be where y equals 0. So this spot, 5 comma 0, because the x-intercepts are where y equals 0. All right, so there's some basics. Now, one of these is factored form, one of these is vertex form, and one of them is standard. Would you please label it with a V, an F, or an S? I understand not wanting to have to write it all the way out. Just label one of them as V, one of them's F, one of them's S. If you don't know the difference, you're going to learn it in a second. You are correct that the first one is standard.
Second one is factored.
This one's factored.
And the third one has to be vertex.
Vertex, very good. Okay, we haven't talked about vertex very much, but the vertex, surprisingly, tells you the vertex. The thing is, it's not 2 comma 5. You might think that that would be it, but it's really close to that. What actually is it?
Negative 2, 5.
Negative 2 comma 5. Why? Well, we can always use the old rule. You don't trust the stuff on the inside. You see a plus 2 there? It's not plus 2, it's minus 2. You're going to be really handy to know the vertex, because then if I know it's at negative 2, 5, it would be like this, and I know the vertex is there, which means I know it's a parabola that goes like this, and that's the vertex. And that tells me so many things. Name one thing where you'd ever use the vertex to get the answer. Well, one would be to get vertex form of the equation, but I've already got that, so that's a little too obvious. What else do you use the vertex for? Think of some of the names of these things we've learned. Yes?
Axis of Symmetry?
Yes. Everybody figure out the equation of the blue line just by knowing vertex form. Ryan Howard, do you know?
Negative 2.
That, if you wrote that on your test, just what you just said, negative 2, can't give it to you.
Negative 2, 0.
Nope, that'd be a point. And this isn't a point. This is an equation of a line.
X equals negative 2.
There it is. X equals negative 2. Only reason I'm being picky now is because on the test, so many people are just going to put negative 2, and I'll cry a little bit. Gotta mark it wrong. Because x equals negative 2 is a whole line of spots, not just one point. All right. Hazel, is this equation ever increasing?
Yeah, on the right side of the lines.
I agree. And right side is a reasonable way to say it, but it's not an okay way to say it on the test. So how would you say it's increasing over there?
From -2 to infinity.
Notice she grabbed the x. To infinity, yes, that's like way over here. It would still be increasing. All right, cool. Everybody write down, how do you write the decreasing interval for it? Stella? It's always going to be in parentheses with commas. Way on the left, up until a certain spot. What's your answer?
Wouldn't it just be -2, -? Oh.
You got to put the smaller number first. I knew you were going to say negative infinity. I heard you say negative. But the negative infinity has to be first. You know why? because it's the furthest thing to the left. You always go from left to right, and the furthest thing of all to the left is negative infinity. So now can you finish it? Negative infinity, comma. Yep. That's it. That's the decreasing interval. It's like right in here, it was decreasing this whole time. From where? From negative infinity until it stopped right there at negative 2. Okay, cool. Now, these scare me when I ask kids to multiply them out because I know what some of them are going to do. I'm going to be Bob. I give this assignment. I say, okay, everybody multiply that out. And Bob goes, okay, 4 times the x and 4 times the 2. Why not? Why can't you do that, Bob? Why can't you multiply by the 4? If you can't even tell me why, then you might have done it too. Here's why. It's because exponents have to go first. Okay? And then there's another kind of kid. Let's call this person Mary. Mary says, well, then I'm just going to go x squared and 4. And then I'll multiply by 4. No, you can't just square the x and the 2. Because really, this is what it is. It's an x plus 2 and an x plus 2. That's going to be more than just x squared and 4. So I think if you write this out like I just did, if you can just remember to do that, you won't screw up either of those two things I just said. Because I think most of you at this point would go, okay, I'm going to multiply that out. You won't think it's just x squared and 4. You'll remember there's actually 4 parts to it. Then you times by 4, and the last thing you do is add 5. Okay, so that's there's a whole basic 20 on this. So let's do one. Everybody write this one down. Just go off to the side and find room. 2x minus 1 squared plus 7. Now the goal here isn't to find the vertex. I already know it. It's 1 comma 7. That'd be easy. But multiply it all the way out. That's kind of hard. Do it in the order I just told you. And I think you won't mess it up. But we'll find out. I hate to say, but I'm only going to totally trust that 5 of you are going to get this right. Just be really careful. Try to be one of that top 5. All right, so here's what I was afraid somebody was going to do. 2 times x and 2 times negative 1. Can't do that because you've got to do this power first. And then the next thing I was afraid of is some kid would go like this. They'd say x squared minus 1 because they just squared this and they squared that. That's not right either. So, give me hope for humanity. How many of you actually wrote that out? Yes, you have a short-term memory. Okay, then you have to multiply it out. Now, if you try to do this all in your head, it's really hard to hold that many things in your head at one time. It's not impossible, but it's really hard. X times x, x squared. I would allow you to hold these two things in your head at the same time. Minus 1x and another minus 1x makes minus 2x. See, one little step you could save there. Instead of writing out minus x, you could put minus 2x. And then 1 times 1, it's a classic for people to say 2 because they think add when it's actually multiply. That is positive 1. Okay, now what happened to the 2 in the front? I haven't done it yet. I'll do it now. The 2 can now get multiplied out. 2x squared minus 4x plus 2. 2 times 1 is 2. Then bring down the plus 7. Final answer, 2x squared minus 4x plus 9. I predicted 5. Be honest. How many had that exact answer before I said it? And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. I kind of expected this is going to be hard. If you made a mistake, would you please, I'm not going to make you say the answer, but like, how many of you see where you made a mistake? If you did make a mistake, do you see it? Okay. I'm seeing people nodding. That's good. All right, let's do one more like this because it's one of the things that's going to scare me the most when we test you. That one's all factored out. And so I'd know the x-intercepts. But would you be able to multiply it all the way out? Do it. Prove you can do this. If I were you, I'd wait for this for last. Because it's really not that hard to multiply everything by -2 at the end. Okay, so I had a student do this part first, and then we're going to multiply everything by -2. Kai, final answer.
Negative 2x squared minus 10x minus 8.
Yup, nice job. Now, what's this good at? Well, it tells me A, B, and C. This is A, this is B, and this is C. It also tells me the what. This last number is the what. It's got two words. The y-intercept. But this thing at the beginning also tells me two important things. The what's. Loudest people in the world in the hallway. They are the x-intercepts. These, when they're factored like this, you have the x-intercepts. And they would be -1, opposite of what you would think, and -4. Okay, pausing for a second. Okay, if you're supposed to put it into general form, I like to say it this way. Generally, just multiply it out. Whenever they want general form, generally, all you're going to have to do is multiply. Whether it looks like this, or whether it looks like this, you just have to multiply them out, and you'll get general form. Generally, just multiply them. Okay, so what do you mean multiply, sir? I don't see any multiplies in this first problem. Well, that's because you're not thinking of the exponent as a multiply, but it really is. That's x plus 1 times x plus 1. Then you have a plus 8. This needs to get multiplied. X squared plus 2x plus 1 times 1 is 1 plus 8. Final answer, x squared plus 2x plus 9. Who had it before I said it? Nice. That is really important. Now the other ones are all basically just the same exact thing over again, except for this one. This one's just a little trickier. This parabola is moved. Remember this unit we just got tested on? Was this left or right 4? Say it if you know it. Is that left or right 4? Right 4. This is moved which way? Down 10. That is it vertical or horizontal stuff that's on the outside like that? It's a vertical on the outside. That's a vertical. And the negative is a reflect. And the 2 is a stretch. Holy cow, that's a lot of review, Mr. Server. Why are you doing that? Because this is a quadratic. And quadratics are something that you learned before in the context of graphing them. And so I just want to know, can you still make me a couple points on this thing? Would everybody please just put in 4 and 5. And I want to see if you can get the point that goes with 4 and the point that goes with 5. You can't afford to forget this.
You would get 0 squared.
Nice.
0.
All of this is 0, isn't it?
You get -10.
But then you have a minus 10, so it's -10. Raise your hand if you had 4 comma -10. Awesome. So if they ask you to graph it, don't go brain dead and go like, we didn't ever graph. Well, if you have to graph it, you just have to pick some numbers and stick them in. That is a top 20 thing. And we haven't talked much about top 20. We've done basic 20 and we did first 20, but we haven't talked much about top 20. Top 20 is you're supposed to be able to graph anything by just making points. When you put in the 5, you can make a point. So here's a 5 going in, and I got 5 minus 4 is 1. 1 squared is 1 times negative 2. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 minus 10, negative 12. Who got it as far as negative 12? Okay, awesome. Yay, that's like last test. All right. Do you get 2 points? Wouldn't be enough to graph a parabola. But you could just keep doing that. When you get like 5 points, yeah, you'll be able to for sure tell where the parabola is going. When you got 5 dots. Okay. Now let's go to this. It is as easy as it seems. I betcha Kiernan can just tell me. What's the vertex of this one?
-5,
Yep. Should ask yourself, would you have been able to do that? Probably. Okay, what's the vertex on this one? Don't overthink it. That 2 doesn't change the vertex at all. It just stretches it. So, Hazel, what's the vertex on this one?
3, -1.
That's all there is to it, everybody. Finish those last 2. I'm going to call on somebody for this, and I'm going to call on somebody else for that. Truckee, what's the blue one's vertex?
-1, 9.
Yep. And Kai, what's the red one's vertex?
And 6.
Yep. That's all there is to it. Okay, so vertex, that's there. Axis of symmetry, that'd be there. It opens up if the A is bigger than 0. Basically, if it doesn't have a negative in front, it's right side up. If it's got a negative in front, then it's upside down. You know, the parabola would look like this if there was a negative in front. If it's like this, I hope you guys get what the difference between max and min are. The blue one, does the blue one have a max or a min? Does the black one have a max or a min? Does the red one have a max or a min? Lydia, which ones have a max?
The top 2.
Yep, the blue one and the black one. How about, what's it called, Caroline? On the red one, that low spot is the vertex, and it's called what? Starts with an M. Yes, minimum. So if it's really low, it's a minimum. If it's really high, it's a maximum. Cool. So that makes those pretty easy. All right. Now, we're not going to talk about pattern of change. That, I think, is a confusing way to do it, so I'm not going to do that. So don't worry about that. So we'll skip right over that. We're going to graph them by just graphing them. We don't have to worry about a pattern of change. We can just find points that are on the graph and do it that way. Okay, so anyway, minimum or a maximum? I'd like you all to label these with min or max. If you think that this has a minimum, then you'd write min. If you think it's got a maximum, you'd write max. Lauren Wallace, is that first one a min?
Yes.
It is. How about the middle one? Max. And the last one? Yep. All right. Good. There's a few things that are super easy. Graph the 4 quadratics listed below. Okay, I don't actually want you to graph them. It's a totally different thing to sketch them. I can sketch this in 5 seconds. You ready? It's a parabola that's been moved right and down. Here's a parabola that's moved right and down. Do you get how that blue one is generally in the right place because I went to the right and I went down? Do you see what I mean? That's super quick. What if I needed to actually graph it? You'd have to find 5 exact points by making an XY chart and all that stuff. So I don't need you to do that. Could you just make me a quick sketch for these 2? Make me a quick sketch of those 2. Yes? I have already wiped this from my memory banks. That is left 5 and down 8. Did I graph it the wrong way? Okay, I believe you. I'll redo it. Left 5 and down 8 should generally be something like that. And I think you're right. I think I was over to the right instead of the left. My point was just trying to remind you how to sketch versus graph, and I guess I wasn't being careful. Okay, on this one, did you move right 3 and down 1? And it sort of looks like that. Now you might be thinking, what about that 2, Mr. Server? That makes it a little more stretched. It's like somebody grabbed the sides of it and dragged it up. You're not going to be asked to do anything like more fancy if you're sketching. If you were actually graphing, we'd find 5 real points, we'd graph them, and it takes care of that automatically. All right, on this one, I hope you knew it was upside down. It's right 10, up 6, but it's also upside down. Now, I could argue that it should be narrower, but how stretched it is, I wouldn't be that picky. If I wanted you to give me exact points, I'd ask for exact points. But you'd need a graph paper, and you'd need an XY chart and all that stuff. Do you get how I moved it to the right 10 and up 6 though? Okay. All right, cool. I feel like you've got this, but I could be wrong. So here's how I'm going to be able to tell. If you really understand all this stuff, you should be able to take this parabola, and I want you to all label this spot right here as -1, -16. Because otherwise people get confused that the other point is the vertex. The vertex here is at -1, -16. You can cross off the POC, because we're not going to use that. It's not something we normally do in pre-calc, and so I don't feel like you need that. But you should be able to give me all of these things. Do you know how you get the factored form? Hint, it comes from these two. That gives you one of them. And this gets you one of them. This is a lot. I know. We're not ready for the test yet. So just do your best. I think some of you are going to get them all right. Minute warning. Seriously. Okay, there's a problem right there. Please do that, bro. 15-minute warning just went off. I know I covered it really fast, but if you can do all of this right now, it's almost like you're ready for the test. This is most of the stuff that's on the test, but we still have a few days, of course, before the test. One of my colleagues oftentimes puts it on their site, so let me just see if it's up yet. Looks like it's going to be the beginning of next week. So you got a little less than a week. Might be like, how could we be ready for the test when we got a week left? Really, there's a fair amount of practice days still built in here. And there's one thing that we really haven't done much with. Like, I got to teach you something new that you have never heard of before. All right. If you could not figure out the vertex, if you were not able to figure out the vertex, because I told it to you, it's this. It's -1 comma -16. Okay, the axis of symmetry. That's the dotted line that runs down the middle. And if you haven't figured this out yet, pro tip, it's always in the vertex. X equals -1. See this number right here? It's always that number. You always have to say X equals though. Okay, next, the X-intercepts. They have Y's that are equal to 0. I make you say that to try to make it stick. And the Y-intercepts, they have X equals 0. All right, so the X-intercepts, there's two of them. This blue one, I'm going to make that spot right there, which is 3 comma 0. And then this gray one, that's that one, -5 comma 0. The Y-intercept, well, they even labeled it for me right there. 0 comma -15. Well, none of these have been that hard. The domain, you will notice that for every single parabola ever, it's -infinity to infinity. That's the domain. It goes forever in both ways. The range, though, for every parabola, there's always a limit on the range because there's always a low spot or a high spot. Okay, this range, the lowest to the highest, is -16. To the highest it goes is infinity. I'm curious how many got this one right. -16 to infinity. Okay. It's really easy to mess that one up because I keep telling you that it's always about the X. The range is the only one where it's about the Y here. Okay. Now, increasing and decreasing. I told you early on, it's the question more kids get wrong than anything else. So let's see if any of you figured out increasing and decreasing. I want to practice like one every day to try to help you get it. It was increasing up to there. That's how I want to say it. So how do you say that? From -infinity until it hit the black line at -1. Decreasing. Wait a minute. I'm going to double check that. No, that was decreasing, was -infinity to -1. Increasing is from here over. That's where it's increasing from, say it. You were saying it? -1 to inf. Thank you. Oh, we're almost done. Factored form. Well, that number, that 3 right there, you can make that into x minus 3. It's the opposite of what you would think. If you said plus 3, I get it, but you're going in a parenthesis. You got to make it opposite of what you would think. And this one is -5. No, wait, it's +5 because it's the opposite of what you would think. There, that's the equation for factored form. That's it. Now, how do you get standard form? This is also called general form. Generally, what did I say earlier this hour? Generally, you just have to multiply it out. That's right. So I multiply this out. If you haven't already got your general / standard form, just multiply that out. And that's x squared minus 3x plus 5x and then minus 15. I'm going to clean that up though. X squared plus 2x minus 15. That, I think, was the hardest thing on the whole page. Easy once I told you to just multiply this out. Okay, and then the vertex. I already know the vertex. Vertex form of the equation. Pro tip on vertex form. Always go like this. And then you just have to put your vertex there and there. See how I did that? You have a parabola, y equals x squared. And you just leave room for the vertex right here and here. And what was the vertex again? -1. So I'm going to put in a +1 and a -16. That was the vertex right there. 16. You're thinking of the y-intercept. The vertex was right here. It's -1, -16. So then I got to go +1 and -16. And there it is. Vertex form of the equation. You know everything now. Could you take the test tomorrow? If you actually understood everything I just told you there, you could probably get a B on the test already. And yet we have several days left to review it and like stuff. So there is a couple things I got to teach you still. At least one major topic. But I feel like at least you're ready for today's worksheet. So find the Schoology quiz. Everybody open it. And I'll just be the Schoology opening police for a minute here to make sure you're in the right Schoology quiz. It is the one.
Quadratics 1.
Double checking. Today is December 1st, so it's forms of quadratics 2. And so it's U4L3, forms of quadratics 2. It's a Schoology quiz. U4L3, only Schoology quiz in the December 1 folder. Kai, still looking for it?
Yeah, I see it.
Parker, have you found it yet? Oh, Parker's absent. All right, and that's all. Yeah, I got one more kid who's absent. Yeah, the Schoology quiz is your only homework for today. And I think it's reasonably sized. I'm just going to check it quick. Oh, that's got a lot of problems. I'm going to probably chop out a couple of problems. Even though a lot of them are easy, I'm probably going to cut out a couple questions. But by the time you look at the Schoology quiz, they'll be there. All right, it'll be fixed.